Hello viewers, welcome to BQ Prime. This is Rishabh Bhatnagar and you're watching Startup Street. Today we have someone who's not a founder or an investor but an advisor to both sides of the ecosystem. We're joined by Amarjeet Singh Makhija. He's a partner at PwC and also looks after all things related to startups and new age economy here. Thank you so much, Mr. Makhija, for having us here at the PwC office. I would just like to start off this conversation with a bit of context setting. I want you to sort of comment on the current state of the ecosystem. It's not the same as it was maybe 2 years ago or even a year ago. There's been a prolonged funding winter. Access to capital isn't as easy. And there's some sort of a brewing, if I can say, a mistrust between founders and investors of lately. Would that be fair to say?
So thanks, Rishabh, I think, for giving us this opportunity. I've been involved in the system for almost a decade now. But technically speaking, the first startup I talk about was kind of a make my trip.
Okay.
That's where I started my journey with Deep Kalra. And after that, I've seen lots of different business models, different kind of founders, different kind of situations. I've seen the ups and downs in this system for a long time to say that, this expression of funding winter is just an expression, I think, which is which has been used colloquially very often. But my personal view is good quality startups which has a viable business model, pedigreed founders, which are where there's a high on tech, which are solving a real problem, etc. They still continue to getting the right kind of money. The only thing is that the frenzy which was there between 21, 22, etc. That frenzy is gone in terms of the FOMO which was there, and everybody was trying to put in money, and at whatever valuation. So we talk about a seller market, a buyer market.
Right.
That was a seller's market. Today it's a buyer's market. Right. So that's the way I look at it. So I think the VCs are today flushed with money. A lot of funds have come up. New funds are coming up. So I would say that, a good quality startup, a good quality founder, business model, I think there's still enough money, but at the right valuation.
Fair enough. So there is dry powder, is what you're saying. But there's only a select bunch of startups that demonstrate the features that you talked about that would be getting these funds, right?
Absolutely, and the multiple funds of rounds of funding which were happening,
right,
at incremental value every time. Those are things of past, because I think everybody is being told that you have to spend the money in the right manner.
Right.
And so one of the features is not only that whether the fresh capital is coming into new companies, whether fresh capital in incremental rounds is also coming. That also has become a little more, calculated. So we see when they are getting into the next round, etc., they are going to ask probing questions from the founder.
Exactly. That was going to be my next question. Is what has been the sort of change between the conversations that founders and investors used to have, say, 2 years back versus today? The due diligence has certainly been ramped up by investors. Founders are also choosy in terms of what sort of investors they want on their cap table. So how have those conversations changed?
Both are relevant, I think, in terms of, I think investor, what they are today looking at is not simply how you're getting your growth.
Okay.
They are talking about the quality of growth now.
Okay.
So the growth cannot, the expression that growth is always good is not true today.
Okay.
So the investor is looking at that, the founder gets the right kind of ROI of every penny which they are spending today.
Right.
At what cost are they acquiring customers? At what cost they are getting into new territories? What are the kind of new experimentation they want to do? So all these things are becoming very, very relevant for investor today. So investor is not simply tighten the purse strings. What they are saying that, when I come and when I look at your MIS, I want to look at, the money that you have spent. Why have you spent that money?
Right.
What have you ever calculated? What has been the ROI on the expenditure that you have done on any decision that you have taken? Have you been see what have been the basic larger expense costs? The technology part.
Right.
I think the investors aren't stop
Okay.
today. One founder that if they want to spend more on technology, they want to experiment on certain things, etc. They might be prioritizing that this can be done 3 months later or 6 months later. They are very, very particular how the money is being spent on customer acquisition, the media costs, the discounts,
Right.
the cash burns around that. So they really started challenging those portions.
Right.
People, that was a large expenditure. People were keeping a lot of bench,
Yeah.
and they were every time they wanted to expand to new territory, they would create a new organizational structure around it. So those expenses are being challenged. So, a lot of admin expenses around that, etc. So all those expenses which were a given for the expensive, strategy of a startup, etc.
Right.
So the investor is talking very differently. Second thing is what they were finding that the founder was spending more money, more time on doing rounds of funding than concentrating on business.
Right.
So the investor now is saying that, yes, you have that money, spend it carefully, and spend more time in your business.
Right. Right. Very interesting point there, Mr. Makhija. Has also the timeline that investors used to give to founders to achieve profitability, to achieve product market fit, all of that has seen a drastic reduction, right? And in terms of just answer the reduction on the timeline.
So I think the expression path to profitability, I think I started talking to my clients in 2015-16.
Right.
And I was dismissed from those discussions because the point is they say that you still don't understand what startup ecosystem. And I used to say that the investor who's putting in money at some point is going to ask you in terms of when I am getting my exit.
Yeah.
For you to get exit, the Indian stock exchanges, if you have to list here,
Yeah.
everybody will be asking you when are you profitable? When will you become profitable?
Exactly. Yeah.
So the point is, this issue of path to profitability is something which was very low on the overall agenda of the founder initially. It was low on agenda of the investor also, unfortunately. But suddenly, what people saw, some of the listing which happened,
Yeah.
how the Indian analyst, the Indian stock market, actually challenged the company, the founder, in terms of some of the losses they were reporting. I think it was apparently clear to the investor and the founder that if they don't start looking at it from day one, I think their ability to even go for monetization, even with a strategic investor, will go away. So this is in contrast to what was there in maybe in US, etc.,
Okay.
where some of these companies were given premium for the IP which they were creating.
Yeah.
But in India, I think this concept of IP maybe 10 years from now will come. But the Indian analyst and Indian stock market, I think educating them that IP valuation versus profitability, that somewhere that balance has to be done. I think it'll take time.
Right, fair enough. Another issue that sort of the first wave of the Indian startups that even went public and now are also a lot of them are in the waiting line. Another issue was the overestimation of the total addressable market, and that then leads to overvaluation and then under delivering. Right? Do you think that is a chronic problem in today's age?
See, the addressable market is something that concept was actually started by startups only,
Okay.
because the tags and all those things, etc., those were very fancy terms based on which business plans were created, business the valuations were created. If you ask me, every company has to go through a life cycle based on which it is able to expand its product, expand the customers which they are particularly acquiring. It's a slow and gradual process. And the fact that we started saying that the penetration of internet is increasing, taking that proportionate to the increase in my market access, etc., I think that was a fallacy,
Yep.
because every product is not procured by every strata of the customer.
Exactly. Correct.
So therefore, the addressable market is something one has to see in terms of what is your product, and technically who are the right kind of customers based upon what strata, what kind of demographics. I think there some of the assumptions which were being made were something without any analysis, without any basis, because the point was the availability of data in India was always a question mark.
Okay.
So therefore, the way the addressable market was looked at was based on assumptions rather than actual data. And I think that a lot of companies have actually gone through that particular now knowledge and understanding. So I would say that the current startups which I come across, they are a lot more knowledgeable,
Okay.
and the way they are actually talking about their addressable market compared to what I used to hear 4 years back.
Yeah. Another question related to that would be, is the era of blitzscaling over? Are startups definitely more conservative in the way they spend cash, and it's not growth and profitability, it's growth versus profitability, and many are sort of forced to choose the
Yeah.
latter.
So I would say that growth versus profitability is something is a term being currently used, looking at the way I think the fundraise is happening today.
Okay.
But growth and profitability is the right expression, because at the end of the day, the profitability will have to come through how you manage your expenses. But if you just look at a typical P&L, it has to have revenue and expense. You can shrink your expenses to whatever extent,
Okay.
but until the revenue is expanding, the profitability is never going to come.
Right.
So therefore, one has to concentrate on both these things together. The cost at which you are getting the growth is very important.
Okay.
So earlier, the expression unit economics was not very important, but today the unit economics is very important. And that's where I think most of the investors ask you that, when you provide a service or when you sell that particular product, how much money are you going to lose?
Right.
Or how much money are you going to make? And at what stage you will start making that money?
Right. Another sort of an issue that I want to address, and this is my opinion, that this is an issue that plagues a lot of startups, is that of revenue recognition. A lot of startups that we've seen go down for financial mishappenings or misconducts, a lot of them had revenue recognition issues at the core of it in their balance sheets as well. Do you think that is an issue in today's scenario?
So the accounting is very clear how the revenue has to be recognized. Anything creative which you are doing is something, it is something which you are doing in consultation with your investor. But ultimately, when you have to report it from a regulatory perspective, your options of taking, any positions in terms of revenue recognition are very limited.
Okay.
So if you are actually a prudent company who is in consultation with the right consultants and who has a who has a able CFO, they will never take stupid revenue recognition kind of a policy.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, whenever the monetization has to happen, they'll have to go through the test of a regulator and a stock exchange both.
Yep.
So whatever might have happened in the past, if you ask me, it was more in kind of a MIS than anything else.
Okay. Lastly, Mr. Makhija, I want your opinion on what's happening on the online gaming sector. There's a lot of retrospective taxation notices that have gone to startups in a sunrise sector. You're a taxation guy. You would have an opinion on this, so just wanted to know.
So as far as the online gaming is concerned, as I tell people, it's an executive prerogative.
Okay.
What are the areas where the government wants to encourage? What are the areas they want to discourage? It is their prerogative completely.
Okay.
So therefore, if betting and some of these areas, Indian government from day one has been giving awards. Even FDI is not allowed today in that particular area. I think that's a call as a government they can always take about it. I think the only thing which has happened in this particular sector is that because there was a fine line between real money gaming, game of skill, etc., and it went to courts, etc. I think some of our startups and some of the investors took some large bets that when it on this thin line, they can continue to actually exist, progress, and at some point make money out of it. But this was always risky.
Okay.
So this is something I would say that where I think some of our investors also have gone a little overboard, and some of our founders have gone a little overboard when they were actually taking their bets. But at the same time, being a tax guy, I've seen the pre-Vodafone regime, post-Vodafone regime, and the governments, on the floor of the parliament saying that they will not do anything retrospective. So to that extent, if there is some challenge which comes in the overall system, etc., I think government should think about it.
Right.
But as I said, if the government doesn't want to encourage, that's a call. I think the government has a right to take, and that's where I think the only thing I would say is that whatever happens should happen prospectively.
Okay.
Because there's still a business model around this.
Exactly. Yeah.
I am not saying that all the companies will perish. The companies which will pivot, the customers which they have acquired, they are able to provide them beyond what, when they did the customer acquisition for gaming purposes, they can give something beyond what they started with. I think there's still a business model.
Okay.
We are seeing the categories like esports.
Yes.
Becoming a very big category in the time to come. Will get included in Olympics and the various Asian games, etc. I would say so. The gaming on its own, I think, is going to survive and thrive, and India will do extremely well because of our depth when it comes to technology, animation, etc. So I think there will be parts of this system which are going to do extremely well, and there will be certain parts, I think, which took a little wrong bets. They might have to pivot.
Right. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Makhija. Viewers, this was Amarjeet Singh Makhija, partner at PwC, with his views on the startup ecosystem. Stay tuned.